Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Can you all hear me for a start? Because I'm not standing behind the podium. I like being out a little bit. Okay, slightly different to what was actually advertised earlier in the day. So if you're here to talk about or hear about all the trends for 2013, we're broadening it out a little bit. So what I'm actually here to talk about is how consumers are changing, how brands are changing, how interaction between the two is changing, and yes, there is a little bit of data spattered in there as well. But just to give you some background, I'm Andrew McClelland. I'm COO for IMRG. We are the trade association for online retail, big and small, but also suppliers to the industry as well. So the whole value chain, people that are involved in helping retailers sell more stuff to us, the consumer. So just to give you a little bit of background and a bit of an overview, really a bit of a twist on also available online. Well, actually now for consumers, a lot of consumers, it's also available on the high street. Their point of reference is changing, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Some of the challenges and some of the opportunities around digitisation, I think you'll probably get those already, but it's looking at those in a little bit more detail. And supporting the all-channel customer. We're now rapidly moving to a point of, well, it's just retail. I hate omni-channel. Omni-channel doesn't describe anything as far as I'm concerned. It's about retail. If you're dealing in all channels, it's retail. Then finally, a little bit about what good looks like. So just to set the scene, retail's worth 311 billion according to the ONS. It's seeing some modest growth to maybe 3%. The economy is changing somewhat as well, so we're seeing some of that picking up. Online retail, by our measurement, is worth 77 billion for this year. Now, interestingly, what we've been seeing is that we collect data from our 120 retailers on a monthly basis, and we use that to chart what's happening. And that will include on 12 or 13 different subsectors as well. So clothing, footwear and accessories, home and garden, electricals, etc. What we're seeing, though, mobile sales is becoming increasingly important. I've got a little bit of a problem when we talk about mobile sales, because actually a lot of it is a movement or a displacement of activity from laptops and desktops onto tablets. It's sofa shopping. It's not necessarily true mobile. But we'll actually start looking at some of the statistics around conversion rates on mobile devices and smartphones in particular, which is truly mobile. I noticed one of our sister organisations, the IAB, is actually here today, and I've sort of borrowed some of their numbers here, but just to give you a bit of an overview as to why mobile's growing so much and why online's growing so much. Actually, consumers are there. Consumers are already looking. We as consumers are already consuming data in these different places and consuming product. Mobile ad spend, I think, 7% of all digital ad spend. I think, again, that's highlighting the importance of mobile devices. But let's take a step back and not get too confused about whether it's a tablet that we're talking about or whether it's a smartphone. And then finally, 24% of all website visits are via a mobile device. And this is from a quarterly benchmark that we run with about 42 of our own retailers that are adding data to this pot. So I think a lot of these shows and a lot of the conversations you have is about technology, different types of technology and how it enables commerce. And I know the presentation before me is about how businesses can use technology to improve their service. But actually, I'm looking at it from a consumer's perspective. As consumers, we don't care about technology. You hear an awful lot in the press and the media around different channels. And as I mentioned, my pet hate omni-channel. Well, actually, as a customer, I don't care about that either. What I care about is the experience that I have with the brand. The shopping process that I go through each time I shop with the brand will be different. It will depend on the type of product. It will depend on my need. How quickly do I need that product? Do I need to touch and feel it? Am I happy just to order it straight away? Do I need to do price comparison? Is it a commodity product? All these different factors will decide that even if I trade with the same brand, each purchase path is going to be very different. All the key motivators sitting behind it are going to be very different. And as brands, we've got to anticipate this and work with our customers and trade in the right way across those brands. But our expectation of the brand is consistent. We expect a consistent retail proposition, whether we're doing it through a mobile device, whether we're doing it in-store, whether we're doing it through a catalogue. So looking at some of the challenges of digitization. Well, first of all, our customers are coming in, they're super connected. We've all got these devices in our pockets that give us access to huge amounts of information, from what our friends are talking about, what they think of products or services or brands, through to newspapers, etc., and the more traditional media. But we've got those devices with us at all times. So when you leave the house now, you check the keys, you check your mobile, and then you'll check your wallet, and it'll be in that order. So this is really highlighting where technology appears in our hierarchy of needs. So the pace of change is rapidly moving. Now, back in 2008, we were predicting a 40% increase for Christmas. Everyone was reveling in house prices still increasing, and a financial crisis hit. What that did was consumers sat back in the run-up to Christmas 2008 and said, I'm not going to spend any money yet. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have a job. I'm not sure what's going to be the best deal. I'm not sure of my budgets yet. But retailers had predicted their stock takes for that Christmas at 40% increase. So they had warehouses full of stock. What we actually saw was that customers were sitting on their wallets and waiting for the retailer to go into sales. We saw that massive change in the balance of power. Consumers now determine when brands go into sale, when they go into promotion. And what we're now seeing is that whether it's on the high street, whether it's on the web, whether it's through mobile devices, sales are more prevalent. The number of retailers that consider themselves as full-price retailers are much smaller now than if you look back in 2007. But interestingly, what this does is it sets a higher benchmark. So us as consumers are now used to technology. So when the iPad first came out, we were quite happy that Adobe didn't quite work on it. We were quite prepared to accept a website that had Flash plugin that we couldn't view. We now expect brands to have got over those problems. So our expectation is, whether it's delivery of the message, delivery of the product, delivery of the service, we expect brands to get it right first time, because that's our expectation with digital. And then we go in, probably not something for today, but looking at some of the challenges around fraud, and cross-border is obviously the biggest area of growth for a lot of retail brands at the moment. Point it the right way would help. So the opportunities, a lot of the opportunities are the reverse of what I've just been talking about, the other side of the coin. But actually, one of the main opportunities is 24/7. It's that opportunity to have a conversation with your customers at any time of day or night. They are already out there looking to converse with you. Are you in that place? Are you in social media? Are you discussing products and services with them? Are you able to service their requirements at different times of day and night? I can go into the high street during the day. I can look at products. I can then order it online when the kids have gone to bed and I've got a bit of time to think about things. Being a trusted point of access. We are deluged with the amount of data and insight and information that's provided to us. How do we sort the wheat from the chaff, if you like? What we do is we rely on a few trusted brands that can tell us whose opinions we trust. People that we know that when they say something, it actually means something to me as a customer. And there's that opportunity for brands to develop that personality with their customers and develop that level of trust. Digital store space is cost effective. One of the advantages of digitization is that actually, if you go back not so many years, 5 or 6 years, and a retailer would announce to the world that they were increasing their floor space, share prices in the city would go up automatically. More stores means more sales. The city is now looking at the store space of stores and saying, well, actually, have you got too much? Can you not use digital to fill the gaps? Can you not use digital to, say, have a smaller store portfolio, but offer the same wide range of products, but using in-store kiosks and in-store digital mechanisms to enable your customers to see your portfolio? And I think one of the key things to remember about all this is that this isn't just about the big guys getting it right all the time. Smaller businesses can innovate, smaller businesses can move much more quickly, they can adapt, they can keep up with key customer trends, and its innovation is about being at the cutting edge, not necessarily the bleeding edge. And then, as I touched on, cross-border expansion. Over half of ASOS's revenues now come from outside of this country, and that's just one retailer. We know of many, many more that are trading into Australia, New Zealand and other territories. From that perspective, if you think about fashion, They're summers at the time when we're in winter. So the cost effectiveness of developing a summer range for the UK, producing it, and then selling it to a very like-minded culture when the season's finished here, the ROI on that range doubles. Because you can sell it into new territories. You don't have to worry about going into sales so regularly because there's another market that you can sell this product potentially at full price. So again, it expands the opportunities for business with some planning. So as I started off as talking about effectively the all-channel customer, we will converse with brands in multitudes of different ways. So as a brand, it's our opportunity to talk to you in these different mechanisms. But the point of reference is changing. We all consider ourselves, being the show that we're at, digital citizens. Well, actually, we're only kind of pretending. We do kind of get it. My 8-year-old daughter, for her birthday earlier this year, we asked her what she wanted. We were expecting Lego and dolls, etc. She wanted a subscription to Moshi Monsters. Her first port of call for any information is the web. And it's not that she's got lots of devices of her own, because I don't give them to her. What she does have, though, is an expectation that she needs to find something out. It goes on the web first. So for brands, it's important to understand that whereas we would probably fairly mix up how we would interact with a brand through online, offline, catalogues, etc., her first point of reference is going to be digital first time every single time. So actually for us, it's how do we move our businesses to that point over the coming years? Because it's not so many years that her and her generation have their own spending power. I've been with IMRG nearly 10 years now. The early conversations at that time that we were having with retailers was about cannibalisation of sales. If I open up a website, people aren't going to go into my shop. The argument at that point was, well, actually, if the customer's thinking about buying from you online anyway, they're going to go to a competitor that does have a website. They're not going to go to your shop. We're actually having those same conversations again now, particularly around mobile, showrooming. So we'll cover that in a little bit in a moment. But actually, this is about a multi-channel customer journey. We know that customers will start their research online. They will then do some more research in store. They will go to social networking and get their peers' reviews and input. But actually, where does the final point of landing where they actually transact? Not very easy to predict. All we know is that customers will behave in different ways. So touching on showrooming, I think we've seen an awful lot about how many businesses are actually trying to block this activity in store, blocking phone signals, etc. Well, actually, that's nuts, because your customers are in your store. When you start looking at some of the surveys, what people are doing is they're looking for confirmation about the product that they're looking at. Yes, they are checking prices, but actually 80% of us, if we were shopping on the high street, it's about instant gratification. It's about taking that product off the shelf and taking it home with me. So actually the fact that I'm online, on the web with my mobile phone, all I'm doing is looking for other sources of information about whether that's the right purchase for me or not. Now that's an opportunity for a brand to have a discussion by providing Wi-Fi. You collect an email address. You collect permissions to contact that customer. You might miss out on that sale, but you've got an opportunity to further develop that relationship over time. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. And if we look at some of these figures, 51% of smartphone owners are already accessing the internet from their mobile, and over 50% of those are actually looking at retail sites. They're also doing a whole bunch of other stuff. Don't assume that they're bad just because they're in your store looking at a mobile phone. This slide is up deliberately twice. What brands need to understand is that it's not this audience here. But what brands need to understand is that the customer is radically changing. We are radically changing the way that we transact with brands, the way we communicate with brands, the way we listen to brands. But what we really need to understand is that potential impact for that high street value chain, that actually the customer's coming in with slightly different motivations now. So my contention would be actually it doesn't matter. The channel does not matter in the slightest. I've already said around how the customer is looking across different channels to get points of reference, to find information, to do the social networking, to get reviews from other customers. What can we actually do as brands to help our customers? Well, for a start, we've got stock checking. Most websites will have a stock check system on them now. So a customer, your customer, can come into your shop and tell you how many products you've got. If you don't have it on the shelf, I will order it from you. I'll get it delivered to home. Or I'll ask you to order it through your system, your point of sale system, and deliver it to my house when it's in. So there's an opportunity for a conversation. Using the web estate to really drive footfall into stores. Stores are expensive. You need people coming in to convert to make them work. That's not to say that it should be mutually exclusive, that a customer in one is not a customer in another. We know that a multi-channel customer is worth 4 times as much as a single-channel customer. But that's only the case if we're encouraging them to interact with us across these different channels. Looking at geolocation in store, the use of beacons. We can't rely on phone signal in a store. It doesn't give us a close enough radius of where people are. But using little beacons which provide you with insight as to where that mobile device is. With the proper permissions, you can provide store locators. You can tell them where the local nearest person is. You can tell them where the toilets are or where the different floors are. So you actually give them an opportunity to provide a full value service without actually having a human in front of them. All of this needs to be done in a mechanism and in a way that online we understand. It's about removing barriers. It's about enabling the customer to move seamlessly across channels. So maybe I do some research online, maybe I set up an account, maybe I then go in store and say, I've been online, this is my account details, have you got it? There's an opportunity there for this to be seamless, to make sure that you know your customer and the customer knows it. Now, you've got to be very careful that you don't go from being able to provide a customer with personalised service and crossing the line into the point where it becomes creepy. So if they ask you or tell you about the fact that they've looked at something online, they've saved it in their shopping basket in their account online, but they want to look at the product in store, by all means have that information available to your store staff. Don't offer that information back though. Don't say to your store staff, if this customer comes in, you can walk up to them and say, hi, we know you've been looking online, this is the product you've been looking at, because that really will freak them out. It's the same as the digital marketing industry, bless them, calling it retargeting. You know, how bad does that sound to a customer? This is about providing relevant information at the right time on their terms. It's the same with mobile. When you start looking at mobile and geolocation, make sure that you're getting their express permission before you start telling them where they are or start issuing information that makes them feel a little bit, well, how do you know I'm here? How do you know I'm in your shop? Because my mobile is in my personal space. As I said, keys, mobile, wallet. My mobile's in here. So if you start talking to me on this, great. I'm quite happy to engage with you, but make sure I understand why you want to have that conversation. And if you break that trust, I'll break it forever. That'll be the end of it. You won't be able to do that with me again. We're also looking at some of the other interesting areas here where you start looking at things like fulfillment, order tracking. Now, I know not digital marketing, but the majority of reasons why people drop out of a shopping basket online is because they can't find the delivery information. They go through the whole process to find out what your delivery options are. Well, this is as bad as not providing product description. This information needs to be up front. You might have a drop-off, you might see a drop-off in conversion at that point, but you'd have had that anyway. So it's about making sure you're providing enough information so they can make an informed purchase decision. And then you'll find as you go down the purchase tunnel that your conversion rates start increasing because you're getting quality of traffic coming through. And this is absolutely the same with things like click and collect. It's a service, it's an offering, it's a multi-channel offering, but don't necessarily think that this is going to increase sales in store. What it will do is increase sales to you as a brand because you were able to help them at that particular time. And also don't forget how they get the product back as well. Yes, there's an opportunity there for marketing. Yes, something may have gone wrong, but it's still that chance to have a conversation with people. Last point on this slide is around single customer view. And this has been around for many, many years. And I would caution as to why brands need a single customer view. I completely understand why it will be desirable. And this is a view of the customer's behaviours across all the channels. But actually, one thing I would challenge is, how do you as a business think about monetising this? If you're a multi-channel brand, you've potentially got legacy systems for your high street stores, legacy systems for your warehousing, legacy systems for your direct mail operation, and now brand new shiny stuff that's looking after the website. What is the cost of correlating the information across all of those channels so that you get a single customer view? Are you going to be able to monetize that and increase sales to such a point that it makes that investment worthwhile? Don't chase it just because it's the latest must-have thing. Chase it because it's going to add value to the business. And perhaps it's about having a single customer view of how they shop online or through distance channels, and then providing with an opportunity to use something like vouchers, for example, in the store. So you're not necessarily trying to collect the data in store first, you're actually building that database up a little bit later. So really the key to this is think frictionless. It can't impact me as a customer, I just want to buy stuff. And as many retailers have said that actually this is just about selling stuff, this is retail. So when we were seeing M&S in certain issues a few years ago, when we were seeing BHS growing and then faltering a little bit, the hierarchy or the royalty of the retail world all stood up and said, well, this is just retail, this is selling stuff. Some companies get it right, some get it wrong. But at the end of the day, this is about selling consumers what they want, and it's about your proposition to the customer. Interestingly, we've got a couple of points on here around Primark do not sell in line. Well, they don't directly, they do it through the ASOS platform. You would ask the question, though, as to, are there customers online? Is it so silly that they're not digital at the moment? Morrisons are expanding their store space as part of a move into convenience, and I think we're seeing a lot of this as well, is convenience-type services. So click and collect within 90 minutes. Now, for a customer in London, that's probably quite convenient, and that's probably quite attractive. I would suspect that outside of the M25, other than the major conurbations, probably not as attractive. But what is the cost of putting that sort of system in place? And do you get that much uplift in sales? But again, it's about that convenience factor for your customer. And actually, it's not about the technology or the channels. It's about your proposition. If you're selling high-end product with high-end customer service, great, as long as you deliver it. If you fall off in one of those points, you're not going to sell stuff. And it doesn't matter what channel you're using, that is retail. So just touching on the retail balance of power. Again, I mentioned it earlier, around 2008. This is where the customer is really now, with the information that's available to them, is making the decisions about what to buy and when to buy. But that's not to say that they're a despot. We are all open to having conversations with the brands that we like and the brands that we trust. Just because we have certain high standards and expectations around how that's delivered across different channels, doesn't mean to say that we're all conquering and all ruling. But you need to bear those in mind when you're looking at your proposition. So again, this is about setting up your brand as a place for your customers to come to for your insight, your expertise, your knowledge. I'll carry on without that. This is about, if you talk to ASOS, they don't necessarily consider themselves as a retailer. What they consider themselves as is a portal for information for fashionistas, about content. It's about providing their customers with content and insight, things that are exciting and interesting to that customer base. Oh, and by the way, they sell a few bits and pieces as well, and that's where the benefit comes from. And I don't know what's quite happened there. So there we go, just to round up then. So it's, as in all business decisions, it's about targeting investment into the right places. Technology absolutely empowers the business to deliver these services, but technology shouldn't determine what the business can and can't do. The relationship with your customer is absolutely changing. Our expectations of customers are changing. The instant access of information is realigning our expectations of how brands react. So when something does go wrong, you expect them to have a decent social policy in place that enables them to react to their customers' needs and provide the information that customers are looking for. But at the end of the day, we as customers just want to buy stuff. This is just retail. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.